Welcome guys to the Iron Crown Workshop, and today we've got something a little bit different for you guys, which is a little bit of a walkthrough, a little bit of a tour of the space that you see on camera in our YouTube series. The idea here is for you guys to get a feel of what an armourer's workshop is like, what's in it, and a little bit of the story as to how I actually put this together and how I got to be where I am now. I'm Joel, this is my workshop, and let's check it out. Okay, so this is the first area in the workshop, which is the forge. This is a coke forge or a charcoal forge. No, not the kind you drink, but the kind that heats up steel. And we're using charcoal or coke, which is a form of carbon that's been used for hundreds of thousands of years to heat up steel by blacksmiths and armourers for all time, to get that steel nice and hot. And we do that by forcing air through the fire, through the coals, with in my case, an electric blower. Back in the day, they would have used bellows to force that air through the coals, getting the steel nice and hot so they could forge it and turn it into a knife, a sword, or whatever it is that they're actually making. On to the next area. So the next station in our workshop is what I like to call the control hub of my operations here at Iron Crown Workshop. And we've got the steel hot from the forge, and now we need to do something with that to smackificate it into some kind of object. And to do that, we use the anvil. You've all seen it. It's the classic and the quintessential tool of a blacksmith's workshop, the heart of the operations, the anvil. It's got a horn and it's got a flat face, and it's a really awesome tool because it enables you to actually work the steel into a blade, into a tool, or in the armoring process. It doesn't matter what it is really. This here is at the heart of whatever we're doing. Moving over here, we have the stake stand, which holds these stakes, which are tools that I use to form the armor over, particularly in the armoring process, to get the shape that I need. I might have like a ball or a half sphere, or maybe it's a creasing stake, whatever it is, this is where I form the steel over to get the shape that goes into the armor. Now, another thing that I use for making armor are dishing forms, which are basically just hollows in stumps or in steel that allow me to get a bit of curvature where I need it in the armor. And I've got different radius and different depths of those here at this station. Moving over here, we have a device called a vise, which in my case is a blacksmith's leg vise, which is this big beast of a tool that allows me to clamp down really hard with the nice coarse thread that it has onto the steel that I'm either forging or the tool that I'm using to forge stuff over. And what's cool about it is it has this leg that comes down to the ground, which transfers all the force into the concrete. Luckily, I've got these guys now to do the job for me. On to the next station. Okay, so, oh, well, that was a long journey. We're still in the same spot, but what we're using is an oxypropane torch. And in armoring, I'm not using the coke forge to heat the steel up. I'm using this, which is a combination of propane and oxygen, and it creates this flame that is nice and hot, and I can put it in the direct spot that I need it to get the steel hot. For the armoring process, the propane torch is the weapon of choice because we have far more control with the torch than we do with the coke forge. Now, historically, yes, they would have used a charcoal forge to make armor, just like they did making swords. But here's the thing. In the 21st century, we have this amazing technology that enables us to be far more exact and precise about where we're putting the heat in the steel. Not only that, it's less dirty, it's less hot, it doesn't make the whole workshop feel like a sweltering oven, and it enables us to not burn through the steel as easily as we would in the coke forge, because the coke forge will just heat the whole piece up and we might get a blow through, and oh mate. So just so you know, I'm going to landing it and bringing it over. Yeah. Oh. You do not want to blow through in a piece that you've been working on for hours. That is horrible. With this, I can see where it's hot, I can see where I'm heating, and it's just a wonderful tool that enables you to form armor and sculpt it into the glorious pieces of art that they are. Moving on to this guy here with all these flames and fire and heat kicking around in this space, you want to be sure that you're not burning the place down and that you have safety as your highest priority. And that's why I've got fire extinguishers at every station in the workshop. And in fact, I'll probably add some more, because you can't have enough safety in your workshop, because this is my baby and I'd hate for it to be burned to the ground. Now, no workshop would be complete without the workbench. Oh yes, that is the most important part of any workshop. Well, at least my workshop. But this one here is my workbench, and it's nice, it's solid, it has a nice level surface. And in fact, this was my grandfather's workbench, which he made from timber that he brought from the dump back in the 70s and the 80s. Geez, I don't know when, but very resourceful of him. However, I've gone through and made a makeover of it. I've put drawers in it. I've put this little space here for me to chuck my tools under and just zhuzh the whole thing up. But above me here on the pegboard, we have all these tools, and I like to have all my tools here nicely organized and neat, so I know exactly where to find them. The pliers, the hammers, the saws, they're all there for whatever I'm working on. And primarily what I'm using this space for is to assemble and put together the armor or the projects that I'm actually working on. What's cool also is that a lot of these tools up here are actually my grandfather's. He was interested in different things like making boats and building things. Yeah, he built a boat and he worked on sailing boats, and that was really his passion and hobby. He's since passed away, and now I'm using this workshop, and I hope he's proud of the things that we're accomplishing in here, and hopefully I don't get in trouble too much for the renovations that I've made. But it is kind of cool to have his tools still here watching over the things that we're doing. We've got these saws from both my grandfathers actually. There's some brace and bits, and I actually still have his hammer here, which he would have used on the projects that he was making. Still got all the paint and stuff that he had on his hands when he was doing the projects that he was doing. So it's a privilege and an honor to be able to continue the legacy that my grandfathers, in fact my some of these tools are my great-grandfathers, to continue the legacy that those craftsmen and creators before me had and have passed on. And instead of throwing that away, I have this really cool opportunity to kind of continue that legacy in the things that I'm doing, to live out their lives again in a whole new way. When I got into this space in the workshop, there were so many of these tools lying around that were all rusted up and thrown away in boxes and discarded. They weren't doing anything, they were dead. And I spent probably about 3 to 4 months restoring a lot of these tools, bringing them back from rust-covered junk to usable, functional tools that I still use today, whether that's the drill press or these saws or some of these little cutters here. They've all come in handy for the projects that I'm working on. And it's so cool to be able to reverse the hands of time in a way and breathe life back into a space and back into tools that have been used for generations, and hopefully many generations to come. But that is the honor and privilege of carrying out the craft of armory in this space, of continuing on the journey that's been started by those before me. The next station in the workshop is the welding station. It consists of a welding table and the welder. I've got my grinders here, I've got my clamps here. Here I can cut things, I can grind them. It's great for all of that. And of course, you gotta have the welder, which is basically a hot glue gun for steel, and it helps us just stick those steel pieces together in whatever projects we're doing and making jigs, fabricating stuff, all that good stuff. This is the grinding corner. So here we have a belt grinder or a linisher, and what that does is make a lot of sparks. And also, it cleans the steel off and makes it nice and smooth and ready for the next step of the process, which is polishing. This grinder was actually given to me by Mick. Thanks so much, man. This is, honestly, it's been an absolute blessing to the workshop and so helpful with everything that we're doing here. So you're a legend, thank you so much. But to polish the steel, we use a buffer, and this one here is a 8-inch buffer. Turns the steel from the ground finish into a nice polished smooth finish. Very important for armor making. And in the corner over here, we store all the power tools in what I like to call my power tower. Oh yes, and in there is all the batteries and the drills and everything so that I can keep everything charged up and ready to go for whatever project that I'm working on. No corner of the workshop is wasted here. Everything is used. And another thing that's important in every workshop is storage. And I've got a lot of tools. I want to keep those tools clean and organized. And to do that, I've built these beautiful tool drawers. Oh yeah. And so in here I have all the tools categorized into their different types. I've got my safety, I've got my fasteners, all my bolts, all my screws, everything like that. And these drawers help me to keep it clean and organized, and so I know exactly where I need to get something when I want it. The rest of this wall is still about storage. Well, a lot of this was actually here because my grandfather had built some of this storage stuff here, but I've changed it quite a bit since then. And you can actually see in this storage, like the theme that we have running throughout the workshop, which is these white areas with this dark raw timber look to it, as well as these areas with the drawers with the cedar color and the gray, and that theme is running throughout the workshop everywhere. Unfortunately, in this storage unit, you can still see a few little modern, less historical, non-armory related objects like a Santa Claus statue and some home and co terrarium thing, what the hell. But although they're not to do with the armory process, this is part of the process of going from a shed into a workshop. And these are some stragglers that need to kick the bucket. But eventually, as the workshop evolves and as we produce projects in this workshop, those things are going to be replaced by helmets. Oh, I can see it now. Imagine rows of helmets, leg harnesses and arm harnesses hanging down, breastplates. Oh, I can't wait. But we'll just have to bait our breath until those projects are done here in the workshop. Bam! The beer fridge for the boys. Oh, mate, there's nothing like a cold, crisp beer after a long day of making armor. It seriously makes it worth it. And would I really be an Australian if I didn't enjoy my beer at the end of the day? And over here, we have more storage with these barn sliders that help to hide some more modern artifacts, and also for putting away past projects. Just another awesome little bit of storage to have in the workshop. Can't have enough. And here is the third workbench in the workshop, where we do all the designing and the patterning and the project creating and where the juices flow. And it's a great space. But over here we have all my pens and pencils and calipers, the tools of the trade that I like to use when I'm drawing and creating the designs for the project we're going to do. Another thing these sliders are good for is putting up pictures of the original artifacts that we're trying to copy, so we have a good reference for actually putting together an authentic representation of real quality armor. And when all that project work is ready to go, then we can move over to this shear for cutting out the steel. And yes, I need to go to the gym some more, but that's not the point. This is where we can get the project on a roll and get stuck into it. Well, that wraps up our tour of the workshop, and it's pretty cool to be able to share all of the little projects that I've worked on over the last few years with you guys. It's encouraging to me to be able to sit amongst all the things that have taken so much time and effort to actually create. But what you guys may not see is the journey that it's taken to actually get to this point. And I can tell you guys, it's been an absolute struggle. This wasn't given to me, this wasn't handed into my lap. In fact, it started with really nothing. When I was like 10 years old, I was like, oh, I think making armor kind of looks interesting. And back then, that's all it was. It was just a vision of what that could be, making armor as an idea. But over the years, there's been more struggles to come against that. Not only did I have nothing when I started, but even when I started this process, even 3 years ago, when I walked into this space to start to use it as a workshop, it was an absolute mountain of junk. It was absolute chaos. There was a boat in here covered in possum pee, mounds of rubbish. So I had to overcome all of that to actually turn this into a functional space to be able to make armor. And then after that, I got noise complaints from neighbors about the sound because, you know, making armor makes a lot of noise. Another discouragement, another derailment of the train that I was on. And right then I could have given up on this vision to build this workshop, but then I decided, no, I'm gonna actually persist with this. And so I soundproofed this workshop, put ducting in it, sealed it off, no more sound out there. But all of that to build this workshop cost money. And where was that gonna come from? So I had to go out and make my own laboring business and work as a laborer during the day, and then in the afternoons come back and work on this project, plastering, painting, getting covered in dust, breathing in all kinds of fumes. And then at night, tutoring students in maths and science and English, just to get that money to be able to actually put this project together. So all of that has been a huge struggle. It's taken everything out of me just to get to this point, to stay true to the vision that started 10 years ago. But here we are in this space, in this workshop now, and you can look around and see every single thing in here that's been built, that I've built. It's here to stay. It's here in this space, and you can see the money and the struggle and the sweat and the tears and the frustrations. They're all in this space, in the projects and in the tools that you can see around this. For those of you out there that might be pursuing a different dream or a vision or something like that, take this note that when you look at your vision and journey and you're overwhelmed by the prospect of all that could be, know that you can achieve those dreams and those visions. Don't allow the obstacle of finances, the obstacle of your living conditions, the obstacle of who you know or what you know to stop you from pursuing that. You need to take that into your own hands, forge your own pathway to get there and get to your vision, because it's one small step at a time. All those little steps build up to make something that you can actually arrive at. But none of that is possible without other people in the process. They're the ones that make it possible. As much as you're struggling against things, it's the other people in the process that make it all possible. And in my journey, I've had the honor of having some really awesome people invest, whether that's the students that I've tutored or the guys that I've worked for in the trades. They're all investors in this space. Or whether it's guys like in the reenactment community, guys like Ian who've supported me and given me equipment and materials to do this job, or guys like Mick that gave me the grinder or some of the stakes that I have, or like my mentor Luke Binks, who's an armourer here in Queensland, who's been able to share his knowledge and mentor me in the process. Even my videographer and editor Connor, who when I was a kid encouraged the vision to actually get to this point. Without those people to believe in you, to invest in you, to give you a hand just in the little ways, none of these things are possible. So with all that said, you'll get to see this space evolve, get to see this space grow. As much as it's kind of set up right now, it's got a long way to go. And as I grow, as our project grows, as our channel grows, this space will evolve. And hopefully we can continue to bring you guys the kind of content and the kind of entertainment that will make you guys inspired, engaged in the craft of armor and the journey of attacking life to get what you want. So have a good one and see you in the next video.